Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Cannabis Capital Markets Conference here in Frankfurt. And now we have an interesting company here, Khiron Life Sciences, and they are coming out of Colombia. And with me here is Darren Collins, the CFO of the company, and I'm pretty sure we get a lot of numbers today now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for allowing us to showcase our company to your subscribers.
Yeah, fantastic. No, thanks for taking the time. And honestly, you are the first company now out of Colombia. I interviewed the whole day companies from Canada, of course, mostly one of the US, and now Colombia. Perfect. Maybe you can give us a little bit of a brief summary, 3, 4, 5 sentences about Khiron. What are you doing? And you are doing it in Colombia.
Khiron is a medical cannabis company focused not only on Colombia, but the Latin American market. So within Latin America, you have 620 million people. 68 million of those people have conditions suitable for treatment with medical cannabis. So it's a very large market that we're talking about here. And really within that market, there's a lot of unmet medical needs that we're looking to address. So fully integrated medical cannabis company, core operations in Colombia, broadening out to Latin America, Canadian listed here in Frankfurt, and also in the US as well.
Fantastic. So you are really focused on the medical side of the business, right? Absolutely. And of course, let's call it also life sciences. Colombia, why Colombia? How did you come on that?
Well, so we were the founders of cannabis business before this one that became over $1 billion company. Still trading today. And we said, where are the markets going to open up and where are places where, we can really position ourselves for as this global theme in cannabis plays out, that we're going to be there and we're going to be there early. And, we picked Colombia because it's a beautiful country, fantastic people, large population base, and was really a leader in terms of regulating medical cannabis within Latin America. It also happens to be a fantastic agricultural environment. I would say at this point in time, Colombia is the greatest place in the world to grow cannabis. That is for 3 reasons. One, it's on the equator, so you have 12 hours of sunlight and 12 hours of darkness.
Okay. Yeah.
Colombia has a differential in elevation or a variance of elevation that means you can grow at an altitude where you don't have significant humidity issues that cause mold, fungus, things that aren't good for cannabis plants. And also you have a very well-defined set of medical regulations that are really leading in terms of their approach to legalization of medical cannabis. So if you go around the equator and you evaluate each country based on those 3 criteria, you'll quickly come back to Colombia and say, yes, this is the best place in the world to cultivate. So we were thinking ahead in that context, and sometimes you have to get it right.
Absolutely. You always should get it right in business, honestly, but I like the attitude. No, I think it's the right approach, definitely. So can you give us a little bit more of an insight now? What have you already built in Colombia? How much you are planting? Let's say how much you are farming. I think it's also a vertical integration of the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how much kilograms you will produce? Let's say this year, next year, and let's talk a bit about margins also.
Okay. So let's talk about total potential capacity and what we have right now. Right now we have about 100,000 square feet of installed capacity that is built out with a full processing operation and facilities on site as well. That'll produce on an annual basis, call it about 8 tons worth of cannabis, maybe a little bit less. When we look across the entire property that we have, again, strictly looking at the supply side of the equation, I'll talk a little bit about demand side in a moment as well, but from the supply side, at full capacity, we believe that the property will produce somewhere in the neighborhood of 170,000 long tons of cannabis annually. That's 170,000 kilos. If you look at that amount of production, it's absolutely massive. But the key aspect of how big this company can get isn't necessarily on the supply side of the equation, it's on the demand side. Because in order to consume that much cannabis, you need approximately 1.3 to 1.4 million patients. So what is the key focus of the business right now is not to have 2 million plus square feet of cultivation area, it's to have over 1 million patients. So how are we doing that? Doctor education, patient association endorsement, product offering for various conditions, indications, and really developing the market is really what's key to our business. When I look at the cannabis markets and where this business is going, I think it's all about distribution, it's all about brand, and it's all about being able to address needs. I think this is probably in the context of capital markets history, the greatest IPO market for farms that's ever taken place. place. But at the end of the day, the business isn't about the commodity input necessarily, but more the brands and distribution around that. And that's where you find margin. The best example is in Colombia, for instance, you can buy a pound of wholesale Arabica bean coffee for $1. This is some of the best coffee in the world. It's absolutely fantastic. I bring it back with me to Canada every time I go to Colombia, which I go to often. You can buy the bean for $1 a pound wholesale, but Starbucks comes to Colombia and they sell cups for $3. So you want to be in the $3 a cup business, or you want to be in the $1 a pound business? You want to be in the $3 a cup business,
Of course, yeah.
and that's what Khiron's about.
Okay, and how do you do it specifically? Because you must establish, I think, a great network of having direct access, let's say, to doctors who are doing the prescriptions. You must have, fantastic products to have that,
Absolutely. Right? And it's a good advantage that we've been afforded as Canadians, being the most advanced cannabis market within the world at this point from a regulatory perspective, being now a fully legalized recreational market, the first G8 country to do so. But what that means as Canadians is we've developed an expertise within this business. So what we're doing is we're taking the best of Canada, we've also taken the best of Israel, and bringing that to Latin America to educate doctors and physicians. The model is really quite simple at the end of the day, but defensible. Patient association endorsement leads to doctors within your network, and doctors within your network leads to patients within your network. Practically speaking, patients listen to their doctor, and doctors listen to their doctor associations.
Of course, so then they can do a prescription with your product.
Absolutely, and I mean, one of the key considerations of doctors are, how do I know that this is safe, consistent medication? So GMP standards and everything like that, we're working within those contexts. And then, how do I actually prescribe this medication? Frequency, dosage, etc. And how do I know which strain to prescribe? It's an extracts-only market. Should I be doing hard pills, soft pills? Should I be prescribing oils? What are the various considerations around that? And we've done a lot of market research and doctor studies to really define and understand those considerations of doctors. We're also doing a clinic network. The idea is not to necessarily populate Latin America with clinics, but the idea is that these are not only distribution points, but also educational points. So if you are a patient, potential patient, or a physician that wants more information, you can go and speak with a qualified medical cannabis expert that happens to be a doctor and have that discussion. It's kind of like Apple stores. An Apple store, you can go in, you can hold the iPhone. Oh, I thought this one was the one I wanted, but really it's a little bit too big for me, so I'd like the smaller one. And I thought I wanted the blue one, but I actually want the white one instead. So that's kind of the approach that we're taking in terms of education, look, feel to the brand, and really changing the perception in Latin America about what medical cannabis is. Medical cannabis is not a bunch of people sitting around using, drugs for, adult use purposes. It's people treating conditions with real medication that, need to be educated, and, these clinics serve as a focus.
Fantastic. Are you playing that for the future also to go, let's say, into the universities where the medical doctors are studying already? Because I think if you go to the source, it's maybe easier.
Well, it's also a matter of access for the populace as well. So the benefit of the clinics is you also have a distribution point as well. So not to diminish the value of that, these are distribution centers as well, where we can have people come in, do consultations, get prescriptions, get their medication filled there, and really build out and drive revenues that way. But absolutely, working with the universities is fundamental. Same as the patient associations.
Maybe also on the
studies,
R&D side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For new products. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. Building out the product portfolio will be important for us over time, and delivery mechanisms. And Colombia in Latin America is a great market to be able to do that in. There's a large population base. There's very qualified, smart people within these markets. University of Los Andes, we've hired a good number of people from. Absolutely fantastic university.
Great.
So we've been very fortunate to
fantastic. You are producing your products in Colombia, as far as I understand.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you export in the whole world, but meaning also especially to, let's say, the other Latin American countries, because that would be for me the next logical step.
Definitively. Colombia has regulations that permit for cultivation. A lot of markets that are opening up haven't developed that cultivation regulation, but is our expectation that they will over time, because cultivation is ultimately what leads to foreign direct investment, job creation, and that's important for these countries. It's important for every country.
And taxes, of course, also.
Taxes, absolutely. So it is our expectation that these markets will want their own cultivation over time. However, that being said, as a fully licensed Colombian operation right now, building out production to be able to service additional Latin American markets is absolutely something we can do and we will do. You look at the Colombian regulations, there's several considerations around export. One, the jurisdiction is legal. Two, your counterparty within that jurisdiction is licensed. And three, that the product is within the specifications of the health agency in that country. So essentially your Health Canada equivalent, meaning absence of heavy metals, pesticides, things like that. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time before we start seeing a lot of cannabis product moving across borders. But it's starting to open up. And yes, we will definitely be a part of that.
Fantastic. Let's come to some numbers, because you are the CFO and you are the first CFO of today. So that's lovely.
Wonderful.
I love to hear some more numbers. First of all, what are the all-in production costs? Secondly, what revenue do you think you make this year? What is the growth rate for next year? And are you profitable already?
No, we're not. We're not profitable. We're just coming into revenue now. We're not really giving too much in terms of formal guidance because we're seeing how the market develops. But in terms of margin, what we're looking at here is over a 90% gross margin business. 90 gross margin, absolutely. How we get to that number, and I'll break down gross margin for you on the basis of selling price and on the basis of cost. So if you look at our selling price, we're modeling in our financial models $4 flower equivalent. It's an extracts only market. With various inputs, you come up to about 4 cents a milligram approximately. How we came to that number was a threefold analysis. We did a look at the purchasing price parity per capita between Colombia and Canada, and looked at the per milligram selling prices of the Canadian LPs to reverse engineer what an approximation of price would be within Colombia on a per milligram or per flower equivalent basis. We then did a comparative analysis on what the out-of-pocket spend is for alternative medications, predominantly opioids. And then we looked at what was available within the gray or black market. But then you're obviously product quality, consistency. Are you actually getting the content of per milligram THC, CBD that you're supposed to be getting? So that's an issue. But we came up with $4 flower equivalent on that. We were looking all-in costs, including the flower extraction, packaging,
the whole,
et cetera.
Real all-in.
All in, fully loaded. About 35 cents is what we're looking at.
Wow, you are the lowest of today. That's interesting.
Yeah, by far.
Wow.
So, there's your 90% gross margin.
Yeah.
In fact, a little bit better than that, but let's just say 90%. When you also look at the capital cost, so that is profitability and ultimately, gross margin being a driver of EBITDA eventually. But when you look at capital cost as well, it's also probably the most attractive, one of the most attractive in the world. You're about a tenth the capital expenditure cost of somewhere like Canada. So in Canada, to build out 2 million square feet of cultivation area in an indoor type grow or greenhouse, you're probably looking somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 million. It's a big number.
So Colombia is like whatever, 40, 50 maximum at most.
Yeah, 30 somewhere in there. These are very common cultivation techniques used throughout Latin America and Colombia. Known fact, Colombia is actually the largest exporter of cut flowers to the United States. Roses, tulips, things like that. So there's a great agricultural environment and well.
So they have real history and tradition. They know how to treat the stuff, right?
They know how to grow. So it's a polypropylene overlay, steel frame construction. We are using hydroponic style grow, so controlling the nutrient flow, quality, consistency, what have you. But these are very capital efficient structures and very scalable. You can build out a massive amount of cultivation area in a very quick period of time. It's a little bit of juxtaposition from what the Canadian experience has been, where everyone is so focused on grow capacity and everything like that. That's not so much the issue in Colombia. The issue is really about market development and patience.
Wow, fantastic.
But we're revenue producing right now. We just rolled out a wellness cosmeceutical line, CBD based. Catalina, who is host of Survivor in Colombia, one of the judges, Colombia's Next Top Model, been involved in a number of TV series, 101.5 million social media followers. She's our brand ambassador for the product.
Wow.
It's
well done, I would say.
It's a full line for women. We'll have a men's line here at some point as well. We're going viral on it. It's 170,000 social media followers thus far. We were at the largest beauty and wellness conference in Bogota 2 weeks ago. We rolled it out. We're coming right into the holiday season. It's on the shelf. We have 3 major distribution partners lined up within Colombia. One of the largest pharmacies, one of the largest online retailers, and one of the largest wholesalers. And it's getting fantastic traction. So in terms of your question again, when do we reach profitability? We're probably a couple of years out on that. We'll invest and look to build the platform as opposed to focus on profitability here initially. But at some point, yes, this will be a massively profitable business.
Super. And do you think you can finance the growth mainly through cash flow, or you have to raise maybe additional money?
Right now, we're capitalized. We did a round at the tail end of the summer. We raised $12 million. So we do have the cash that we need here in the near term. This is a growth company. Yes, we're going to raise money, but we're not raising money right now. We're looking for people to participate in the market. The stock trades well, generally speaking, over 1 million shares a day. The price is about $1.60 to $1.80 right now. It's kind of the bottom end of that range.
What's the market cap?
It's about 110.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Decent. Okay.
No, it's a very attractively valued business in the context of what else is available as investable product within cannabis, and based on the future potential that this business has. Back to the numbers, with the $4 flower equivalent that I mentioned, and 170 million grams of annual production on a business to patient.
680, yeah.
Yeah, 680. Put a 50% EBITDA margin on that. It should be better, but we'll penalize it. And 10 times multiple on that. You're a multi-billion-dollar company that's trading at $110 million today.
Yeah, that sounds like a nice growth path.
That's what we see in terms of fundamental long-term potential on this business.
Yeah, fantastic.
And we're the leaders within that market. We have 50 employees in Colombia. We're just closing our first acquisition, actually, of neuropathic pain clinics. We pick up 100,000 patients, 46 doctors and clinicians. We're going to go in, we're going to train them, and we're going to transition them from their current medication to cannabinoids. So predominantly opioids to cannabinoids, and we scale and drive revenue on that in an absolutely massive way over the next couple of years. To the tune of, right now it's doing 10.5 million of revenue, 1.8 in EBITDA. We think we can double and triple those numbers over time with better margin. So, in terms of, outlook and, actual revenue, we'll be, well over a $10 million run rate once we close that acquisition. It's announced on the LOI. We're near complete the due diligence, all the transaction documents. We're working through it. Yep.
And the lawyers. Don't forget the lawyers.
Oh yeah, the lawyers. We have very good lawyers. Our lawyers like us.
Fantastic.
So that's all coming down the pipe. Again, trades here in Frankfurt, and then also in Canada and in the US as well.
Super, perfect. Well, thank you very much. That was a really interesting interview, and I keep fingers crossed for you guys. And I think you have the right approach to the business.
It's been 2 years of solid work thus far, and we're fortunate to have a really great team at the end of the day. Our timing was right. The business strategy we believe is right, and the people around the company are just absolutely wonderful. That includes Alvaro, the CEO, Andreas, the Chief Commercial Officer of the board. We have Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico, on the board of directors. It's really a solid team, and we're really having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. So I would say you have laid the basis for a solid and sustainable business.
Oh, thank you so much for that.
Super. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you share our view.
Great for having you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there was Darren Collins, the CFO of Khiron Life Sciences. And you heard it, the company works out of Colombia and doing a fantastic job. Company has really started their business, 8,000 tons per year, right? Is it now?
8 tons. 8 tons.
8,000 kilograms.
8,000 kilograms.
That was I wanted to say, sorry. Yeah, 8 tons per year by now, but the company is really growing. And what I like is the approach really to have the doctors on their side, to really go for the patients directly. That's exactly the future, because through that, you are creating your own markets. So check out the company. Thanks for watching us. Bye-bye from Frankfurt.
Thank you.